Is there a bigger glow up in all of anime than Koby? With Koby going from a tiny coward to the new hero of the Marines, it's kind of clear that Oda has something pretty big in mind for this little guy as we shift into the endgame of One Piece. Emus waging war in Elbaf, dragons hopefully also on the move, and Teach is scheming something. But what is our dear Captain Koby, Luffy's first friend and Marine rival, actually up to? What exactly is Oda planning with his character? What power-ups are in store for Koby, who wants to become an admiral? And what is his future role in the story actually gonna look like? Is he gonna free Garp? What will make him powerful enough to actually take on Luffy and prevent him from becoming Pirate King? And how will Oda set things up to get these rivals into a climactic battle? Because honestly, Oda's been hinting at something big happening with Koby for a while now. Come on, it's Oda we're talking about. You know, the one who's constantly dishing out god-level foreshadowing decades in the making. Oda has been planting the seeds of One Piece all the way since the East Blue. He's actually stated that ever since the beginning, he's kind of had the rough idea of the series' end planned out completely. And when did we meet Koby again in the story? Oh yeah, that's right, Chapter 2. Before Zoro, before literally any of the Straw Hats, Koby is the first person that Luffy meets on his journey after he set sail. And after Luffy reveals his dream to become king of the pirates, what does Koby say? He comes right back at him with his own dream, declaring that he wants to become a Marine Admiral. Like, come on, is this not the most classic introduction to a rivalry ever? Two people who are the heroes of their own story with diametrically opposed goals being introduced at the onset of the very series. Need I remind you that this was Chapter 2? Yeah, these two are totally butts. They have some mad respect and love for each other, but at the end of the day, Koby is a Marine through and through, and Luffy is a pirate, the pirate. And when the time comes, no matter how friendly they are, these two are gonna have to throw down properly at least once. And hey, I get it, right? Koby got sidelined for a while here. We didn't really see him again until post Enies Lobby. And even though he got a big power-up, he was still a joke when it came to sparring with Luffy. But still, like, looking at from where he came and what he achieved in a couple of weeks, kind of crazy. And he also got knocked aside by Luffy again at Marineford, but he also awakened his crazy Haki there. But now, like, all along, we've been seeing him grow at crazy speed and strength and status within the Marines, just like Luffy has as a pirate, only way faster, honestly. And sure, he's still not got anything like Gear 5 or something like that, but dude, he's pulling out island-destroying honest impacts 2 years after looking like this. Koby isn't some little weak, like, you know, crybaby cabin boy anymore. He's now Koby the hero. He's a sword member. He's the personal chosen successor to Garp, possibly the strongest Marine ever and direct rival to Goldie Roger, who looked at Koby and says, this kid has what it takes. He's the real future of the Marines. So in the same way that Luffy has inherited Roger's will, Koby seems to be the one who has inherited Monkey D. Garp's. And let's also not sleep on Koby's achievements anyways, because this man is the hero of the Rocky Port incident. He has a 5-star, 500 million berry bounty from Cross Guild. He's a master of observation and armament Haki, and might actually already have access to the advanced Ryo technique with his Honesty Impact. Whether or not he actually knows it is still to be determined, but this man is going places fast. Even pre-time skip, he had the courage to stand up to Admiral Akainu during Marineford, and he's honorable enough that he sacrificed himself to become Blackbeard's prisoner in order to save his subordinates at Amazon Lily. Now, he's currently only at the rank of captain last we saw him, which means that he has a few steps to go before he becomes an admiral. About this many to be specific. It kind of seems like an insurmountable climb to reach in time for the end of the series, considering that Luffy is a Yonko already now and just one step away from Pirate King status. But let's not forget the absolute insane levels of growth that Koby has already shown in the series. Right now, I'd easily put him at least at the level of pre-time skip Luffy, probably like a chunk higher than that, but he's only had 2 years of real training, while Luffy had trained his hardest ever since childhood to become the real powerhouse that he already was at the beginning of the series. And now that during Vegapunk's message, Koby explicitly said that he wants to stop Luffy from achieving his dream, badass statement by the way, what's actually in store for this hero of the Marines, and what kind of power-ups might Oda be planning for him to get him to become one of the highest tier fighters in One Piece that fast. Like really, there are only a few solid ways that Koby can boost his strength fast enough to become an actual valid threat for Luffy. He can, of course, develop his Haki further, something he already has a super solid basis in as far as armament and observation go, but Koby unlocking Conquerors would make all the difference, and it feels very likely, I hope you agree. Like in the Wano arc, we basically learned that Conquerors infused attacks are basically a necessity to harm endgame players, and especially after witnessing the God Valley incident, the event that made his mentor famous originally, we as a community can, I think, truly see why Conqueror's Haki is king. You really needed an to override Imu's Abyssal Immortality packs, big dogs handing out left and right, and you know that Koby isn't gonna stand for some king of the world once he finds out about that he's been secretly orchestrating all of the Marines, so I'm kind of expecting his hands to be rated H for Holy Night once they make themselves a little bit more public. Now the thing here is, we've seen very few Marines who actually have access to this ability, but again, if anyone's gonna do it, I honestly think it's gonna be Koby. Like the two Marines that are confirmed to have Conqueror's Haki are Sengoku and Garp, and I mean obviously I assume the other admirals, but we don't know that yet. And since Koby is basically being set up as Garp's successor by himself, it kind of makes a ton of sense for him to also unlock or have already unlocked this ability. Maybe even in response to Garp being captured by Blackbeard. Could that be the catalyst that he needs to go full beast mode in the new future? But also, can Koby even get Conquerors? I do think so, but it's a little bit tricky, right? Like my personal headcanon is that most Marines can't unlock Conqueror's Haki because by its very nature, being a Marine means kind of stepping in line and bowing down to authority. Whatever the higher ranked officer says kind of goes. You just follow orders. But we also know there are people with Conqueror's Haki who serve under others. Like look at King, right? Or, Katakuri. So Sengoku and Garp also themselves are just built a little bit different anyways. They definitely do their own thing more than the average Marine, and Koby is kind of in the same situation right now. By becoming a member of Sword, he's technically already resigned from the Marines anyways. He already stood with his conviction, like standing up to Akainu when it meant facing down the literal fleet admiral and almost getting lava punched to death like Ace. And really, regardless of his orders, Koby does what he believes is the right thing and is the true sense of justice that he has. He's a true leader with remarkable ambition, and in the same way that Luffy's a conqueror because of his will to become the king of pirates, Koby dreams of becoming a marine admiral, a leader, not so he can uphold the world government and celestial dragons, but so he can save the people that need it. And as I said, his justice needs to smite those dang evil creatures ruling his government anyways. Koby's dream of being a great marine cannot exist while Imu the Gorosei and the Holy Knights are still in charge. And I kind of think that we all know that Domi Reversi is coming in pretty clutch for Imu, and Koby's gonna probably need to honestly impact his way through some evil villains, some celestial dragons, and maybe even Mu themselves side by side with Luffy at some point. That'd be kind of cool. I would like to see this. So to do all of that, Koby will need to become a conqueror, which I really have 99.9% faith in that it will happen by the end of the story. But that being said, we all also know, of course, that Haki isn't One Piece's only power system, so there's always the Devil Fruit route as well. If Koby keeps getting promoted, there is a chance that the world government could give him a rare and powerful Devil Fruit. After all, as you know, all of the admirals seem to have borderline broken Logia fruits that are some of the most powerful fruits in the entire series, so maybe one day he'll actually get a really sick fruit power along with a colorful admiral nickname. However, my vote would have to be for no fruit at all, because if he's truly following into Garp's footsteps, I kind of think it would totally make sense for him to just forgo the devil fruit path completely. And as people like Garp and Roger have shown us, you don't really need a broken devil fruit when you're that guy, when you're him. You can just beat down your opponents with sheer force and crazy fists. Also, who needs a devil fruit when you can just become an actual devil, right? Like the Elbaf arc hasn't pulled any punches, and Oda might have just casually given us a third or fourth power system, which actually would, perfectly rationalize the two frenemies Koby and Luffy actually fighting. for real and give Koby the strength to be on Luffy's level, because if Imu is gonna use, say, Domi Reversi on Koby to grant him a crazy demon form, kinda positive he would jump up to being one of the most terrifying beings in the entire verse. It's pretty clear that Imu's demonified subjects do gain a crazy amount of power boost. Dory and Broggy became way bigger than normal giants, and their strength grows to some unbelievable levels too, ready to tear apart their own homeland and cut down Jarul. The Gorosei and Holy Knights gain insane immortality and regenerative abilities, especially with all the Omen stuff. So if Oda really wants to give Koby a power boost that will make this a matchup for the ages, Imu's interference could actually make this happen. And just saying, man, I don't know if even Luffy can tank a hit from the dishonorable impact punch. Okay, I mean, like, surely Demon Koby would have some techniques with way cooler names than just that. You kind of get the idea here. But even though Koby really needs to find that power boost, it's his will to fight Luffy and actually match his rival's power level that really needs to amp up. Well, like, sure, he's like said that he's determined to stop Luffy's dream in his tracks, but if he finds out the truth about Imu and the world government, a large fraction of the Marines could actually end up fighting against the world government themselves. Like, that's long been a worry of mine for the final war, actually, that there are a ton of Marines who do want to fight for justice and like an actual better world, like Garp, Smoker, Koby, maybe like Fujitora, and like some of the other admirals as well. And some of these could very well end up fighting on Luffy's side at the end, right? Like the Holy Knights definitely have helped answer some of this, giving Imu some powerful new fighters on the government side who are fully loyal to the Celestial Dragons. And we also have the Domi Reversi people who will unwillingly fight for Imu. But against the insane worldwide alliance that Luffy has built up throughout the series, kinda seems pretty one-sided, until, again, you remember that Imu's just gonna start busting out Domi Reversi and, like, transform some really broken people into some almost undefeatable enemies. Even Marine admirals like Akainu and Kizaru, who've been kind of struggling with whatever they're doing is right here and whether they like the government, which they don't, right? And Oda's been hinting that they could turn against Imu and the Gorosei by the end. But if Imu can just demonify the Marine forces, not only will they have a terrifying and powerful army, but one that is completely subservient and dependent on the Celestial Dragon's will. And leading that charge could very well be Koby himself. There's a good argument to be made, I think, that if we're gonna go by pure personal stakes, Akainu could be a great opponent for Luffy because he could seek out revenge after he killed Ace, but there are two alternatives waiting in the wings that I think are much more likely to take on Akainu in the final war, because it could be Sabo, Ace's other brother who's inherited Ace's will in the form of eating the Mera Mera no Mi, or it could even be Luffy's dad, Monkey D. Dragon. Like, Dragon never met Ace as far as we know, but it does seem like he has a very personal history with Akainu as a former Marine, and there's definitely something going on there with Akainu hating him so much. So if Luffy does have a final Marine antagonist, and it's not Akainu, Koby is a great candidate. If you asked me back in the day, I might have said Smoker, like way back in the day, but honestly, he kind of seems to have been sidelined pretty hard as Luffy's main Marine rival at this point. In fact, I don't even think any Marine is more likely to switch sides than Smoker already, who has ended up teaming up with Luffy in pretty much every single arc he appears in. And sure, right, like Smoker could get demonified too, but I just think that the emotional stakes would be way better with Koby. Because as hype as it is to see Luffy beat down absolute despicable villains like Dofi, right? I think there's just so much more for the audience to get invested in when we care about both characters. If we understand both Luffy and Koby's perspectives, it would make the fight just so much more interesting, powerful, and meaningful. And there's a reason that even though the difference in power was arguably laughable, Luffy versus Usopp on Water 7 is still one of my absolute favorite fights in the entire series. So when we get to see two characters we absolutely love brought into conflict against each other, every single hit is just gonna be absolutely heart-wrenching. And so to see someone like Koby, who has strived towards his dream for so long, who embodies the values of justice and has become a true hero to the people, that guy lose his will and freedom and be turned into a monster and have to do battle with Luffy would be one of the most emotional but impactful moments of the entire series. Luffy would have to fight someone that he considers a true friend, who was literally the first friend he ever made on his journey, and even if Koby is not demonified and just has to fight Luffy to fulfill his duty as a Marine, that would honestly be even more emotional, arguably, right? Almost as emotional as the bonus content you can get only on my Patreon, like downloadable artwork, early chapter reactions, bonus videos, and much more. Go check it out if you haven't yet. And that shameless plug out of the way though, all of the signs pointing to Koby versus Luffy, I would say, are there. How do you feel about this, right? Like the early setup, the parallels between Koby and Luffy with Garp and Roger's relationship, Koby outright declaring that he wants to put an end to Luffy's dream, Koby being trained and raised by Luffy's grandpa, who kind of partly trained and raised Luffy, like so similar style, similar mentality. A conflict between these two is definitely coming. It's just a matter of how and when, I feel. Now, if you're curious what I think, there are a few ways that I could see this playing out, actually. He could be an obstacle on the way up to Imu. Like, Imu definitely seems like the type of twisted puppeteer who could just like pit some loved ones against each other, not hesitating to turn Luffy's allies or even crewmates into like demonified enemies. Imu could kind of parallel Dofi in this way, just in the way that Dofi forced Bellamy to fight against Luffy, and that was pretty awesome and like emotional and heartbreaking, and I didn't even care that much for Bellamy. But if we take Oda's insane foreshadowing and Koby's very early introduction into consideration here, and that Oda clearly had Koby as part of the bigger picture and endgame of the story like in mind from the beginning, I think that a fight with Koby could even come after Imu has already been defeated, right? After all, Imu and Blackbeard actually were introduced until quite late into the series, while Shanks and Koby debuted in the very first 2 chapters. And really everything that I've been saying about Koby being an endgame antagonist because he appeared in chapter 2 could also apply to Shanks, since he appeared in chapter 1 and has directly stated that he's gonna try to claim the One Piece as well. Something really does tell me that Oda could pull out a big twist, making the final enemy not Imu, Blackbeard, or Shanks even, but someone we least expect. Koby, a character that was way more important than Oda wanted to let on, but it was right there from the beginning. And you know, people kind of clown on Koby's power level compared to Luffy sometimes, but give the man some real credit. He is the future of the Marines. So if the world government is essentially destroyed by Luffy and the people around him, the power vacuum could cause the world to descend into even more chaos than it's already in, and by defeating Imu and saving the world, Luffy could, in a very Luffy-like fashion, and kind of like the destructive part of the Sun God stuff, basically introduce a whole lot of new problems into the world as well. So Koby might want to fight him to re-establish order for the entire world, and he could very well pull up to Laugh Tale as a final obstacle to try and prevent Luffy from actually achieving his dream. I could actually see this being the case with, you know, the One Piece potentially being something bad. You know, we do know that Vegapunk didn't like Joy Boy too much. We know that the Roger Pirates were like, we're curious what decision you're gonna come to. So if the One Piece means destroying the world to break the cycle or destroying the world to save it, Koby could be the person who's like, Luffy, you can't just destroy everything. Like, it's not worth it, right? I could see something like that happening, and that would be great. And if something like that happened, it really would remind me a lot of like fights like between Naruto and Sasuke, right? At the end of Naruto, 2 friends or allies who have opposing visions for the future forced into a conflict for the fate of the world. And if Oda can give Koby enough of a power-up to actually take him, I think it could make one hell of an unexpected final battle. Or maybe there's even a scenario where Luffy like goes Nika mode so hard and kind of loses himself a little bit in that power rush, right? Like using the One Piece or whatever it is that's hidden on Laugh Tale, and he kind of like loses himself a little bit and Luffy turns into like this demon. Maybe even like we see in the mural, right? Holding the sun. If that's Luffy and he becomes the bad guy and Koby has to become the hero who kind of saves Luffy by, you know, freeing him from this. That would be cool. Gotta admit that too. But I also do have to admit that this isn't the only way things could play out, of course. There is another route for Koby too that absolutely makes sense as well, because after the Celestial Dragons and the world government are exposed for the very evil organizations that they are, the old Marines will probably be reformed and Koby will be the perfect new leader for them. So on uniting together with the other sword members, Koby could just rebuild the entire Marines after the final war, reshaping them in a good way based on protecting the innocent and upholding justice, instead of just serving as whims of a world government that's completely corrupt. After all, Oda has stated in a 2018 interview that he'd like to end One Piece with a huge party, just like he does with most arcs, and seeing both Luffy and Koby achieve their dreams, becoming the Pirate King and the new Fleet Admiral, would certainly be cause for a big celebration. But we shouldn't just gloss over the current fleet admiral just yet either, because Akainu is a massive threat still that's, I think, sometimes just forgotten by people, and he's gonna completely shift how the final war is gonna go in some way, shape, or form too. Will he turn? Will he lead Imu's cause? And will we see Akainu versus Kuzan as a rematch? If you want to know more, check out this video here where I dig into all of that. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much to all of our Patreons, and I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful week.